30 years ago, we found a dream. A dream to shape the future through innovation. A vision that has sparked revolutions in technology and businesses, improving people's lives. That dream evolved, transcended boundaries and reached new horizons. From line-by-line coding to model-driven AI-powered development. From uncertain software evolution to eternal youth for code. From slow, manual deployments to automated, continuous integration. From traditional business models to digitally empowered operations. From single-purpose apps to integrated feature-rich platforms. From stacking documents to AI-powered experiences. And as we look into the future, the dream lives on, and the possibilities are endless. What's next? It's not a question. It's our invitation to build the future together.
Hello, my friends. Thank you. It's an enormous pleasure to come back to face-to-face events. I would like to thank you all for coming from Uruguay and from over 30 countries. This is going to be a speedy event. We have over 140 talks in a world that's changing constantly. The motto of this event is what's next? And if I had to choose a question, the question that I've been asked the most last year was precisely that. What's next? What's coming next? Now, the reason for this is that we are living in a world full of uncertainties. I'm sure you know what happened last week with OpenAI. The technological world is upside down, and it's reasonable that we are all asking ourselves what's next. And we wanted to focus our event around that, because that's the answer that we want to give out loud and clear for the GeneXus community, so that by the end of this event, we have clear in mind what it is that we have to do. That's the main reason for this event and the main reason of this keynote. The question is, what's the cause, what's the root of all this? Why is it that we are full of uncertainties? And I think that we can go back to a previous question, and it's what's going on? What's happening? And then my opinion is that we are living an important technological revolution as we've never had before. And all technological revolutions start with just one thing. Someone or a group of people invented a new machine. And we are at the birth of a new machine. The Industrial Revolution started with the steam machine by Watts. And the question is, what's the new machine now? What is it that mankind is creating? Now, the short answer is the large language models, LLM. And they are artificial networks of neurons of an enormous size, millions of neurons, hundreds, thousands of millions of connections, allowing us to do things that we couldn't do before. And in fact, in AI, a new area was created. It's called generative AI. Until this new machine, we were using basically AI for classification problems or recognition. That was very much used in computer vision to recognize someone's face or identity or that kind of thing. Or we would use it to predict things, in a series of time, what's the following value and so on. But we had never had the chance to do something that would generate a text and an image or the things that we are seeing. And this is due to this new machine. Now, what happened? Is it one machine? Is it many machines? Well, it's a frantic race, and we're going to call these machines models that have an enormous growth. What we can see there is some of the models that are being created right now. Just look that models started in 2020. Look how many models were created in 2023. The size of the bubble is the number of neurons of that model. And what we are seeing, and what I think we're going to be seeing, is that these models are going to be more and more frequent, more and more powerful, and more diverse. At a certain point, this is going to quiet down. There are going to be some winners out of this. But now it's very difficult to know who the winners are. And what we're going to have is very many of these models of neurons in the large language models. Now, a way of trying to look into a revolution and to see what we can do vis-a-vis a technological revolution is to understand its nature, to understand what's happening. And a way of seeing this, and it's very interesting, is that any technological revolution transforms a resource that was scarce into abundant. For instance, the Industrial Revolution, thanks to Watt's machine, was force. Thanks to force, it was done by horses or oxen or human beings. Now they had abundant force. Any machine could provide much more force. Any machine, any car that we drive has much more force than we have. So it becomes abundant. And so what we have to understand, what is it that's becoming abundant? What was it that was scarce and now it's abundant? And the answer is quite simple. It's the creation of text, the creation of images, the creation of audio, and very soon, the creation of videos. But I'm going to focus on something that is very important, and this is the creation of text. This is the first time in the history of mankind that we have a machine that writes perfectly all right, in a very coherent manner, in any language it's been trained. This didn't exist before. This is the incredible piece of news that we have now. What do I mean by this? I mean that this is a text revolution. This is a change for texts. All of us working with texts are redefining our work, our way of working, because we have a new machine and we have to know how to use it. Now, a technological revolution transforms an abundant resource into scarce. There is another one that becomes scarce. For instance, in the case of the Industrial Revolution, it was oil. Oil was abundant. It was used for lamps, but it wasn't much used. Now the change is that Watt's machine had to use oil, and then oil became scarce. And the question coming next is, what resource used to be abundant and became scarce? Because that's the one we have to pay attention to, particularly. And I think that the two fundamental resources that used to be abundant and became scarce is trust. Because in the same way I told you that machine makes text creation abundant, and that it's well written, it's fluent, it's coherent, that doesn't mean that the text is true. And one characteristic that is inherent to the machine, and if I take away that characteristic, it no longer has the capacity to write well, is that it has the capacity to invent, to hallucinate. These are two sides of the same coin. In the same way, it writes perfectly all right. What it writes is not always trustworthy. And so those who find the sources of truth, those who understand this, are the new guys finding oil. That's the first point. The second point is the other way around from what you read in the press. Lawyers, we're going to do away with lawyers, we're going to do away with workers, and so on. It's exactly the opposite. This machine is a tool to give a lot of productivity to those professionals, but they won't disappear because they are the source of truth. If I've got a text that was created automatically, I need a domain expert to tell me whether that's correct or not. I don't need that expert to tell me whether it's well written or not, because I know it's well written, but I need to know whether it's true or not. And that's what's happening. And this is the nature of the revolution that we are attending to. Those of us in our profession, software developers, from the most abstract standpoint, we work with texts. And so clearly, this revolution is redefining us. In fact, if I had to define what it is, where is it that we are being redefined, I would say that it's in two areas simultaneously. The first one is how we're going to develop software, and the second question is what software we're going to develop. At GeneXus, all along our history, we've lived along these revolutions. Any of these two revolutions, right at the beginning with Breoghan, we asked ourselves, what software are we going to develop? First, we started with characters, Windows, and so on. And in each one of those technological revolutions, we had a GeneXus version. And thanks to those versions, the GeneXus community and GeneXus became stronger. So whenever there was a change of what we had to do, when things became somehow more stable, we took advantage of that to make changes in the how. We changed an IDE, which was in iOS, then to Windows, then to .NET, and then we went on making progress. But so far, we've always had that opportunity of focusing on the what and then after that on the how. Now, the enormous challenge that we have at present is that this change occurs at the same time. These two things, these two changes are occurring at the same time. How is it that we're going to develop software and what? And we can't focus on one and leave the other one for some time later. That's the great change. Following the idea of master at DCs who is here. We are extremely pleased and proud that he's here and he's going to give us a keynote on Thursday. He used to explain to me that whenever we have these situations, we can consider it a threat or an opportunity. And he invented a word called threat opportunity. It could be a perfect storm, and it can destroy you, or it could be a perfect opportunity, and the company would be taken to a new situation. And I said, my master, how could this be? How could it be either one thing or the other? And he gave me his point of view that I've been working on for many times. And now, a threat opportunity is a threat or an opportunity depending on how strong you are internally. If I'm strong internally, then this is going to be an enormous opportunity. But if you are at a weak point in your life, this is such a tremendous threat, the perfect storm. And so I said, all right, but how can I detect whether I'm strong internally? How can I realize what's happening? And then one of the key questions is if we start asking, why not? If we start saying, well, this is what's happening, this is the change that's occurring, and if we start thinking, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? Well, that means that we are facing it with a different strength. In particular, we feel that we are at the best time at GeneXus. Many things have happened from the technological standpoint.
Also from the point of view of our organization. Being part of the Globant group for the last 2 years allows us to face the situation with more strength so we can dream. So the why not goes to another dimension. I would like to invite Martín Migoya, CEO and chairman and co-founder of Globant. Has he arrived? Not yet. So I will continue, and then I will invite him. He will explain why not. Let me now focus on how to develop software and what change we want to accomplish in the way we develop software. Let me tell you how it all started in the code generation world. Let me explain how it all started. The first idea was to generate code on the basis of templates. With a template, you had to fill in spaces to generate code. Those were the first generations of code producing. But as we did that, we came to the conclusion that it had no scaling up. It suffered the complexity catastrophe syndrome. It was so complex we could not move forward. So we tried to look for another approach, and that was the reason for our success. We focused on what we call the symbolic AI-based code generation. Instead of having templates, what we have is a business rule or several business rules that will tell us how to write an if in Java or how to access an Oracle query. GeneXus today has 75,000 such rules. Every time we generate code with GeneXus, we apply one or many of those 75,000 rules. This allowed us to bring the code generation to a higher level no one ever achieved before. Our example is with Bank Total. It's a banking code used worldwide. And one day we started counting the code lines they had in Java, and it was 500 million code lines. And we achieved them applying the 75,000 rules. That was the process. And that allowed us to generate the type of applications we produced. We were very happy then with that situation. We were very happy with the technology, but there are limitations that so far did not attract our attention. We need to know GeneXus. We need to know the GeneXus language to do so. That was the situation until in November 2022, to the surprise of many of us, something appeared, the generative AI-based core coding. And the Python, C#, Java, or GeneXus codes appeared. ChatGPT knows how to write GeneXus. You can ask it questions in the GeneXus language, and it will answer, like in many other languages, not always correctly. Oftentimes it's correct, but not always. Anyway, it's a tool, a very impressive tool for the domain experts. If I ask them small things, if I'm writing code and I ask, how do I do this? That small line, code line will work correctly. It will be reasonable. And if it's not reasonable, it's so small that the domain expert may say, I can modify this is not correct, and you win a lot of productivity. But you cannot use this technology to generate 500 million code lines. It would be very costly just to say that 99% is correct and 1% is not correct, and that's hard. So it's a new way, but at the same time it's limited. And this is where we start with the first why not? Why not? Maybe there's a fourth way out. Maybe there's another way to cope with it. And on this, we started working to use the capacity of text reading and text generation, but not to write machine code, but to write the requirements. I want a system for a drugstore, for example. I want to use the strength of an LLM to tell me these are the entities or the GeneXus transactions that you will need. So the expert can maintain a dialogue in his own language to check the requirements. Now, at the time of generating code, what we want is to use the 75,000 rules I mentioned and using our technology to generate code so it's rock solid, so that the 500 million code lines are correct. That's our approach. This is the opportunity we face. And we'll talk about this, and we'll talk about how we implemented this. So they tell me that Martín is here, so let me invite Martín Migoya. A pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming. You come from a very long trip. Thanks for staying. I come from the Far East. I will ask you about that at the end of this session. But first of all, Martín, tell us what Globant is today. Well, Globant is a company that is trying to reinvent an industry. It's in the business of fitness, the technological fitness. It's a company we created to create technology and develop software for the most important companies in the world. We started working for Google in 2006. Global was founded in 2003. And in 2006, we started working for Google, developing activities outside Mountain View, the first company. After that, we became the best-kept secret of Silicon Valley. The founders of Google were recommending us to the electronic arts founders. We developed games for them. Then we were recommended to other funds, and we started working in the first mobile applications of LinkedIn, also with Disney, with the executive team for their digital transformation. And today, we are the #1 partner of Disney worldwide in software development. How many of you went to Disneyland, or went to the park, used the Magic Band and mobile applications and pages for booking your visits? All of that is made by Globant. We are 29,000 engineers in 35 countries working for Globant. In 2014, we had a crazy idea to do an IPO. So we listed our stocks at the New York Stock Exchange, and we've been listed for the last 9 years. We will be 10 years listed in the Stock Exchange of New York. The team is very wonderful, with a varied culture, very open and innovative. And we became a vehicle so that entrepreneurs who have dreams like you can continue creating larger dreams, achieving larger dreams. Like in my case, the dream is to reinvent the whole industry, generate value and impact in Latin America by creating and transforming professional careers. We have 6,000 in Colombia, 1,200 here in Uruguay. And in all cases, it's not just the impact of those people, whatever the number, but the whole ecosystem created around them, and all the professional careers and training for young people, and how we transform the ecosystem. It was a long answer, sorry. Wonderful. Today, I know we've been working together for 2 years already, almost 2 years today. What do you think about GeneXus as part of Globant? Well, this was something we really talked very much in depth. It was a dream we had to accumulate technology that would accelerate whatever we do. And in that group of technologies, GeneXus always stood out. That was our goal, that you were showing the way. And Globant invested a lot in platforms. We have platforms, GeneXus is one of them, but we have several other platforms like Augur, which is a code intelligence. It's like the Google Maps in the code that allows you to browse with codes you don't know and solve bugs and new functionalities for certain types of code. Like, for example, a bank in Italy with 6 million code lines created by people who retired or died. So how do you navigate that? Augur helps you navigate those lines. We have Magnify, which is a tool for testing. So at some point, all tools will come together, converge, and accelerate. That's our vision, to create technology, to develop software for companies worldwide, which needs to be leveraged by platforms. And in that vision, we've been investing a lot of money. And GeneXus plays a key role, as you know, in all of that. Let me tell you something. When you make a decision to sell a company, it's very, very important, at least for me, for Brogan, more than figures and templates, it was more important to have a good relationship, to share a culture, a business culture, to have the same approach and vision. With Martín, we were friends first, and then we became partners. That process is important. And then what happened was it was amazing how Martín participated in the strategy of the new GeneXus. He's very much involved. Well, that's a reality, precisely. Gastón is here, and we got together for several days. I think it was in March or April this year. And I wanted to develop, yes, I remember it was like this. He called me on a Saturday, and I said, yes, Martín. And I said, well, I was used to the giver partner, and he said, I need something urgent. I need something urgent. He was living in Montevideo, and I said, yes, giver, what do you need? I need a hairdresser. And when I said, Martín, he probably needs another hairdresser, but Martín said, no, I have an embedding, and the embedding I want to use with a PDF, but then with a PDF I have a problem with the Python code. Wait. You have to talk to Gastón. And that's when it all started. Yes, that was when we started to understand our models more in depth. And we talked about generative AI. Globant has been investing in artificial intelligence a lot. If you look at our calls in the last 8 years in a very systematic manner, I have talked about AI and how it will affect all we do. And that is really happening today. But the good news is that Globant and GeneXus are ready to face that. In Globant, I remember I once was standing, like I'm doing now, and I said, this was 8 years ago, 100% of our Globers, when I say 100%, from the most sophisticated engineer to the trainee that recently joined us, all of them, even the assistants, all of them need to understand the basics of AI. Why? For two reasons. First, because we will use it in Globant, and second, we want to use it for our customers. And 8 years ago, that was the creation of our AI study. It started growing, developing, and that study today is one of the largest in the Americas. But originally, you were preaching in a desert. Yes, what happened with ChatGPT was like a blessing. In the past, when you tried to explain AI, it took you ages. But now everybody understands what this is about. And people very quickly understand what this is all about.
And so apart from the product itself, we have a large marketing campaign about what machines can do when you don't program them, but you train them. And then at that time, I stood before everyone and said, you must know about AI. And so we started a rainfall of projects. Ando Sponton came up, a dear friend, and he said, he was Uruguay, and he said, look here, I came across a paper of some Russians that are using AI to accelerate the ways that, and it foresees the next token and the next instruction. And I said, but Aldo, that's spectacular. Let's start. Let's invest. He would tell you that, right? Yeah, this is a story I've never told anyone. And then we started setting up a team and to develop it. And we submitted a patent in 2018, similar to pilot. We were given it in 2020, and Copilot started in 2022. And and at Globant, we've always been there, when we had this question of generative AI, these were transformers that we had been using, but trained with very many more things. And so we started doing deeper research, and I said, well, the one who has to understand this, it's me. How do you program? How do you make an IDE? And then I called you that Saturday morning, and then you put me in touch with Gastón Milano, and we went on doing all those things that we love doing. So Globant is quite a nerd company. And let me announce something. I don't know if you've seen it. The technological nerds joined the advertising nerds, and which just bought Night, which is one of the most successful creative companies, winning out all the lines. So we'll have to dress differently then. All right. But tell me about GeneXus. What have you thought when you saw that? Well, the first thing I thought is that we have to be able to use all these new tools to give GeneXus a meaning for the next generation. And Gastón and all your team and you understood this very quickly. And the things we started doing, it was in January or February when we launched GeneXus Next, and the things that we started doing, it was in February. And that's the spirit. I think GeneXus and the next versions will not only be easier to access them, and we have to release barriers and lift barriers so that everyone can use the tool and that it can become far more popular. But we also have to go deeper into in integrating with all these generative tools at the maximum level. This AI product that we have, I think I don't want to spoil anything here. That I'm going to say it at the end, but you can go ahead. Then I'll spoil alert 1. But I think that the products you're going to present are wonderful. We don't know what it is, but it's wonderful. I'm sorry, Nico. Yes, but I think that's the way, and we have the vision that we share with you, Nico, and with everyone at GeneXus, is to have a more open tool, to make a tool that can use all the latest technologies, and that it can keep our customers with the state-of-the-art technology. And I think that's a vision that we have of the company, and GeneXus forms part of our family, and it has that. Let me keep a strong message from you, and you would always say it right from the very first talks. Let's lift the barriers. Let's lift the barriers. And I can't stand it any longer. You're a privileged actor. and play, not because you're a nerd, but because of the sectors that you talk to, the people, the companies, the creators. What's your opinion about this revolution, AI in companies, the adoption of AI? Well, it's a time when the world is trying to understand the impact it may have. It's not a time where there is full clarity and it's as if, oh yes, of course we have to do it, yes, but then wait a second. If I do this, then my data would go up to OpenAI or Microsoft or whatever, or Google, and then it just a second, just a minute. Or the CEO I talk to have this dual nature. I mean, we have to do it, but we have to be very careful. So I think that for GeneXus, there is a spectacular opportunity to be that tool that gives you the possibility of being without running the risk of these new technologies. And so what we are seeing right now in the market is an explosion of AI projects, but at the same time, we have exploratory projects. It's not that they are massive or mass projects such as the digital transformation. I think that digital transformation was invented by Disney, but digital transformation projects were massive. And this is going to be as well. But CEOs and technology managers of companies are beginning to understand the impact and using it. And there we have a dilemma. How far are we going to go with this? And so the thought that we have, what we think at Globant, is to try to divide things into two. On the one hand, generative intelligence that's used when we are creating content. Content creators, for instance, someone who makes codes or a professional who's writing out a script or writing a text, a guy who's writing a novel, let's say. And so that's a case where, since you are charging that person with that job, that person is responsible for it. But if that person wants to use AI or not, it's his or her decision. I can't tell that person, now I'm forcing you to write these scripts using AI. I can't. Simply, I can't. And so there you have to draw the line and say, well, if I ask someone to develop the content of a professional to make that content, I have to leave the professional or entitle the professional to decide. So as a company, we make tools available, but we can't force anyone. And I think that's a use case that is most clear on the one extreme, on the one hand. But let's now go to the other extreme. And let me give you an example. At Globant, we have 29,000 professionals and very many projects coming up every day. Now, who is the best person for that project? Now, that's a matching job and say, this is the best person for this. Now, human beings can do certain things. And that was one of the first projects that Aldo brought up to me. How can we use AI to try and understand better what person will be working or what team will be working with that project? And that's something that a human being can't do, that AI has an edge on human beings, has an advantage. And that's where companies have to think that in these things where there is a transformation generated by AI and a performance level that didn't exist before, is where I can force and I can be positive and say, we are going to be using AI. I've told you the two things, where I can't do things and when I'm forced to do them. And in the middle, we have a lot of gray areas, and you can imagine cases which don't coincide with any of the two, and we'll have an eternal discussion. But we can have a framework, and you say, well, I've got this case. Where am I? Well, I'm gaining productivity, and it's wonderful. I have to do it forcefully, or am I here and I can't deal with people generating the content? And so that philosophy is a philosophy that will continue evolving. And I think that we're just starting when while Sam Altman is struggling or fighting with the board. Well, be careful with your board. Yes, yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm doing fine. If I transform myself, they'll keep it. Otherwise, they'll kick me out. I think that we, as leaders, we must always think what we do and what we don't. And that's a discussion that it's occurring right now. It's a discussion that must evolve, and we are all waiting to give our thoughts away. And at Globant, we made an AI manifesto. We're thinking of a new version of that manifesto to provide useful tools about what we can and what we can't. And so in between, we are having a big Globant event. It's the long conversion. On the 30th, I had a discussion, a very long discussion with our marketing people, our marketing team, because they wanted the event to last an hour and a half. No, I said, it must take as long as it takes. It's Converse. This is our flagship event every year. It's going to be on the 30th of November. We have a lineup that it's incredible, lineup of speakers that's incredible. I interviewed Mark Bennett, the founder of, and he has a spectacular project in Salesforce. We discussed that, and we discussed how businesses and tools are the most powerful tool in the world, and we talked about this philosophy of AI. We discussed many things, and I also talked with Nuance founder David. He lives here, and he's one of the most important entrepreneurs of all Latin America, and it's incredible what he's doing with Urban and how to reinvent an industry using AI or using technologies to provide better financial services. Let's talk about that, because we've got a product for him later on. Yes, I've got to go and sell it. You always have to sell it. And then we also discussed this with James Vincent. He was the right hand of Steve Jobs in Apple. When Steve would sit down and create products, and all the stories of products and Apple there, and we have Isaacson, the one who wrote the Elon Musk's biography. Well, that was incredible. And we're going to see him, and it's going to take 4 hours. It's going to be long. Well, and to conclude, are you going to tell me what you did in the Middle East, or? Well, one of the most incredible markets, and obviously it's quite controversial because there's a lot of press against it and press for it. But what's happened in the Middle East, it's not the Far East, but the Middle East. It's incredible, and the capacity, the transforming capacity of a group of people who are transforming. I was in Abu Dhabi, and all the leadership of that country with very well-trained professionals who are, and they're investing in their country and the transforming capacity. I was there in the Formula One race, the Abu Dhabi Great Prize, and it was incredible.
and they are reinvesting in attraction parks. They are transforming deserts into beautiful places. Do they see technology as something important? Yes, we just were awarded a project called 7. We are going to use much of GeneXus. This is a fun fair, 7 times the size of Manhattan. 7 times the size of Manhattan. Could we get a discount for the community here? Yes, they created a city called the Villa within Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. And that city was created. It was an old village, and it was expanded with amphitheaters, cinema halls, event rooms, but it's underground. All services are underground. And the streets, another level for cars, and they are reinvesting the money, changing their mentality. Instead of buying treasure bonds, they are investing. That's going to create a huge change. So this will open up many new opportunities for GeneXus and Globant. Well, Martín, thank you very much. We have to leave, but before that, we have to introduce Gastón Milano. Gastón, please come up. A big round of applause for Gastón Milano. Thank you. Oh, look at them. They invited me on stage. Great, great personalities. First of all, it's a great pleasure for me to be here with you. I see many friends and my own team, which is working worldwide, and that makes me very, very happy. Before I start, I would like to go back a little bit. And I would like to refer to an event in 2017, and we'll bring back a friend who's also here with us today. I think it's tomorrow or Thursday. He will have a presentation. But let's see what Jose Elias told us in 2017, what he thought the software development would be like. And before we start, I was very skeptical at the time. Not just me, many of us were skeptical. Listen to him. So where are we moving to? The future of software. One of the first things that will happen is that descriptive applications with bot. Remember Gustavo's example, generating interfaces in the keynote speech. It was Gastón, I think. In the future, I tell my customer, I'm going to send you because you are in charge of payroll, for example. So I'll give you a screen and you will give me information. I can also send you a bot to chat with a person, and the bot would say, well, on the screen, would you like to include taxes or not? And you say, yes. What type of taxes? And so you can have a conversation with a bot. This is coming. Another thing that's coming, bots for QA, for software testing. You don't have to pay for someone to do it. The bots will do it. Then we'll have digital assistants connecting among themselves to create a knowledge chain. And today, Amazon and Microsoft did a test that is called Alexia. You will say, Alexia, open Cortana. I want to talk to Cortana, my assistant. Another thing, the assistants and the APIs, the local APIs, local to your cell phone, local to your browser or to your computer, will become more and more sturdy and powerful. And we will have a very high dependency on intelligence in the cloud. The cloud will be here to stay, to provide hardware to solve all applications and customer issues. And then the programming languages themselves will not be as important, because we will be depending on higher levels where you will talk to the bot or describe what you want to do, and he will do it in whatever language. And finally, to detect patterns, to generate automatic software. Can you read it at the bottom? Any coincidence with GeneXus is coincidence only. A big round of applause for José. About, well, what's happening now is that other people like Andrei Karpathy, one of the most relevant engineers, ex-Tesla and now OpenAI, are talking about this type of things. The new way in which we program will have natural languages, English, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, Japanese, Chinese. So connecting with some of the things that Nicolás and Martín mentioned regarding the why not think of what José talked about? I will have to go to his presentation to know what I have to do in 6 years' time. Now, this is a reality today. Generative AI, in particular, is an area where programs and models have advanced. So we may wonder, why not? Why not use spoken language, natural language in our text? And that was when, with Nicolás and Brogan, we went into this more in depth. Yes, why not? Why not take this avenue? And also Giver, Martín, the founders, also from the beginning of this year, they encouraged to carry on. So we were aligned. So now I'll tell you about some of the things we started working on and the long path we started treading. So first of all, we said, why not use natural language? Someone will tell us, I want a system. Don't read this. This is not very clear. But anyway, what I'm including here is that I want to create a system for this conference. So basically, we had a chatbot that tells me, well, to organize a conference, you need to create such and such an entity. So we started this interaction, this dialogue. This started a year ago. In the beginning, this conversation was a little bit hard to maintain. José Lamas, in his presentation, will explain that this type of conversation is amazing. It's surprising. To tell you the truth, we are so involved in the evolution of models, of generative models, that we are surprised. So I can tell it, improve this system. Go ahead, make it better in this area, add this module. And after this conversation, we detected, this is what Martín mentioned today, and Nicolás, this is what we released in February this year. It was a hard conversation initially, but this year it seems like 10 years went by. It's like a roller coaster of models. And what we really need when we talk to artificial intelligence is to understand what AI is understanding so as to draw conclusions. So I said, I'm creating a conference system, and we were building a model. It was like getting the immediate feedback from another person when we speak to them. So he said, I detected these entities, conferences. I could manipulate that, or I could tell the AI, erase such an entity, improve the system here or there. Then we integrated all our partners. We included systems. We started talking. We added interfaces. And the first thing we built with this was that as a result of the conversation, stemming from that conversation and direct manipulation, this is something that Armin will talk about as well during the event, how this interface works. But very briefly, let me tell you that as a result of this conversation, I obtained a system, a back office system, where I have all my entities connected, where I have mobile applications to access the back office. I have a chat so that I can tell the back office, add a customer with such characteristics, or chat with the back office. And the back office has integrated security because it's a back office. And as it will have to integrate with other things, we generate APIs so others can connect to the back office. So basically, so far, the point is that, in addition, we host it in the cloud. We host it in the cloud. As from Chat GPT, I can talk, and then I get a code and combine it. No, that's not that. From the natural language, I create a whole system, an enterprise system, with all it means from every standpoint. You could say, well, how do I add business processes? If I want to connect to something in particular, how do I go about it? So we added a button. You imagine that you had a first system that you talked. It's like a new KB. It creates a new knowledge base with whatever you want to create at the time. It's not like in the past with different templates, which was a standard so far. No, what came up to my mind at that particular time, I added. The other thing that you will see during this event is that behind this button, if I say I want to double-click here to continue working on this KB, I have an IDE GeneXus cross-platform at all levels, many layers. So I talk to the AI, and then I continue inside GeneXus through a web interface, probably. But this is an interface that runs in the Mac or runs in Linux. And all the layers, the development environment, and the business logic of GeneXus has been encapsulated. And all the generators run ProsFlow. They can run in any container. And we can say that GeneXus today is cloud ready in all its layers. And you can say, good, but then you went back because you were using natural language, and now you go into GeneXus details that are high level. So where is the language? Where is that conversation you had? Because now you want to converse and you want to add things at a lower level. You want to go into details. So we worked on something else. Within this system, within the GeneXus, you will have AI-assisted work. You will have assistants. And the assistants will help me add, for example, a business process. And the assistant will draw the business process. I will double-click on a specific task, and this will be done. So the GeneXus learning process will be easier than ever with this type of tool, because I will use natural language to tell it what to do, and then in direct manipulation, if direct manipulation is better, we'll use that to move things from one place to another. It's easier to move it. So the combination of future interfaces is natural language through text or video or audio combined with direct manipulation.
These are various senses to build, various directions to build software. So far is an engineering work that we are doing with all the GeneXus team. It's been incredible, and I admire all of you. I admire the group working on this development, apart from all the AI team. But so far, then I go on, and then the construction of systems, one of the places where I have more friction is in building experience. Now, how, all right, you've got the back office and you've proved it, you put business processes and you have AI, but the experiences on top of this, we're still producing some friction. So to tell you what we did around our experience, I'm going to give the floor to my friend Mario Canziani, who is the head of product design at GeneXus. Mauro. Thank you, Gastón. Thank you. Gastón was telling us about how to build software, but when that software gets to the client, to the customer, to the user, we say that we are building or have built experience. Our clients, our customers, the customers of our customers are demanding more and more sophisticated experience and even more quickly, and that's a very difficult scheme to solve, and we love it. We are working to try and solve those two things, and we are together with our vision. And then on the one hand, we've already worked on how to accelerate the integration of design in software. And that's a dilemma that the company hasn't solved very well. But we have moved forward with GeneXus. We have a tool that allows us to integrate design automatically in GeneXus. Our customers say that they've accelerated 4 times than doing it manually. We have also a piece of news that's going to accelerate that even more, but that's in a talk by Cecilia and Damian tomorrow afternoon. The next challenge is how to simplify the creation of experiences that are complex. And to do that, we have a new ally. We have generative AI that allows us to have a new spectrum of things that we can do, an array, a display of things. And we're going to show you a tool that allows us to accelerate and simplify the creation of those experiences. Now, how do you create an experience? Well, a designer goes through these stages. Just imagine we are thinking about the experience that Martín told us about for Disney, where the user has to interact with applications and systems and bands, and then it's a flow is iterated. It designs at a high level. Everything is going to happen. Then something more concrete occurs. It's the skeleton of those apps, and then we get interaction patterns, hierarchies, and information. And then a design system or the visual identity and so on. And now we are presenting a plugin that is integrated to Figma and that does these 3 stages. But industry has already presented plugins integrating through one phrase. But we think that if we are serious for enterprise, it's far more complex than that. We think that in the future we'll have to feed these models with lots of data. Imagine we're going to be able to feed them with the results of the users' research and our interviews with users. We'll have to feed it so that the results are much better and more accurate. Our plugin does that. It connects GeneXus KB, and it gets the data model, the data that we have in that KB, and then apart from the phrase or sentence that the programmer can do, generates this. In this program, we are based on a project like the one that Gastón showed us, where we asked to generate an app for a car shop, a car sales shop. So the designer is in full control. It can touch, modify, generate or regenerate a part or everything. And then you move on to the next stage. You generate those wireframes, those initial skeletons, to start working on the scheme, on the interactions, interaction patterns, and so on. Again, having full control of touching, modifying, regenerating. And this is the input. And we have a design system that lives in KB. We can generate high-resolution screens. Now, this is one first iteration. You're going to see it later on. Tomorrow, there is a talk by Maximiliano with Natalia. And the most interesting thing here is that these screens are ready and optimized to be able to integrate it in GeneXus, and you have the full cycle there. So we have design, code, we go from design to the final experience in a full cycle. Now, these are the talks that you can attend tomorrow. You're going to have a preview of the first version of this plugin, and that's it. Please accompany us in this new wave that with GeneXus you can already create more sophisticated applications in a shorter time. Thank you. Thank you. Back to you, Gastón. Thank you, Mauro. Now, truly, that question, why not? We feel it very close to us, to our team. As we said, we were in a roller coaster this year of emotions. Those of us who are experts, we are moved by these things. We put a lot of passion into all this. And to follow that dream, we always said, or at least I've only worked in GeneXus, and we've been discussing this for a long time, how to get from the goals you want to build a system, skipping many accidental complexities. And we're quite close to that. In fact, José Lamas will show us how to go, how we went all along that road, and how we think we can move from goals to systems that function, that operate. And now we're going to move on to, as Nicolás said, well, this is the how. On the one hand, we had two challenges, how we imagine how software must be built, and then the software experience. And we have a very clear view of that. And that's what we showed you earlier. But then the other issue is the applications we'll have to build and are also changing, will change. What Martín was saying, that perhaps this year is a year where we are testing concepts, and many companies are seeing that this is changing. And I think that next year we're going to have the real explosion in many businesses, because what's clear now is that AI will be leveraging lots of new experiences. And I think that out of the experiences that Mauro was sharing with us, we're going to leverage many of the things that we have to do in business applications. And it's not as it used to be in text and then Windows, and one was replacing the other one. It's not that we have to stop doing what we were doing. And it's not that we don't have to post it in the cloud and have to have services. We don't have to look into observability of our solutions and make a monolithic infrastructure structure and services and include something else. In fact, in this event, we're going to be dealing with each one of these topics that I'm just mentioning, with all our generators and so on. For instance, in the world of multi-experiences, together with mobile applications and web, there are new channels coming up. Those that don't have the event app, please do so in your mobiles. But this is the first year that the great team led by Gustavo, who is always in charge of preparing the event app in a record time, of course using GeneXus, and together with the design team make a great app. This year we can say that this is the first time that this app is a super app, is a channel. This is the first time that the app wasn't only prepared by Gustavo's team, but by Develop, Consulting, AB Qualifier. They have all put in mini apps in the GeneXus app for different things, and each one of them can have their own identity in the GeneXus app. This is the first time it's a super app. Please download it to your mobiles and explore the mini apps included. So the super app, it's a great challenge, is one of the main things in the event. We're starting with Paolo Masili and other talks. It's not a minor talk. So
we are always have this thing, and we are doing everything at home. But it also appears in other places. AI will mean that many people will like to be present in ChatGPT with a module. They'll have to be present in other places that would like to emulate ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is probably more for final users, where you want to put in GPTs or mini apps, because ChatGPT is a super app, including many assistants doing many things. But many times, I don't want to upload my data. How can I have my data? And that's a private GPT. And so what we did for this event, apart from the event app, that's the core of where things are, we also, in the past few days, we did a GPT that is integrated, included in ChatGPT. And that's a good thing, that we could integrate everything that the team, that Gustavo's team did through API. We were able to connect it and make a GPT. And if you look at the news, if you're interested in the news, you'll have Montevideo, news, and this GPT that we prepared has one restriction. It's not our restriction, but you have to have ChatGPT Plus. You must pay for a subscription. Those who want to test it, well, if you want to download it, if you want to have a talk with the bot about the event. Now, what all these models bring about, and that we are working behind all this, is that AI has unblocked the way we communicate with computers and with software, and that makes it possible to have new experience patterns. Now, to talk about this, I'd like to invite Federico Dominioni to tell us what's happening around these experience patterns in K2B. Federico. Thank you, Gastón. Thank you all. Let me tell you something. In K2B, we have an RP, which is a work class, and we're always working on how to improve our customers or our users' experiences. And to give you an idea, this is a very rich RP, functionally speaking. It has 3,500 screens. So many times, it may pose a challenge for new users, because they have to decide which screen to go to get to their goals and their intentions. So in March, we started working to see how we could use AI to help our users to identify according to their intentions, according to what they want to do, and take it to the right screen with the preloaded data in a correct way. This is intentional navigation. I'm going to give you an example of some of the things that we were able to do with K2B. And so here, for instance, this is an assistant, and the idea is that it will help users to navigate the app. And so we are asking, how much do you have to collect in the next 4 weeks? And then automatically it takes you to the adequate interface where you have that information. This is just an example. Now, another example that we have, let me see if I have it here. I have to press again, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. This is the example that we have here. And how did we do all this? Well, K2B has an advantage. All the screens
that were created were made with K2B tools. And so all the solutions are behind the screens. And thanks to that, we were able to have all the descriptions of the intentions of our users to the AI models, so that afterwards the assistant knows how to guide the user and what screen to use.
Oftentimes what we do when we generate this technology, which has been approved on larger technology, is incorporated so that the K2B users can incorporate it. And we have one successful case, K2B tool user who has electronic billing application. We gave him all this, and in 1 week, he was able to achieve the following. One click. We created an invoice for $500. And automatically, this goes to a pre-completed panel, and the user, the end user, has to check data to see if they're all correct, and then the final user signs it. The artificial intelligence will guide you, and then the end user confirms the action. This is very powerful, and this will change the applications we will use in future. Thank you, Fede. Wonderful. I think this is a very good example to avoid hallucinations, because as Nicolás said, one of the things that may happen is that the models may hallucinate. Now, if I guide the model to a place where I'm sure, and I present the information in a structured manner, that is the combination that we are now having. We talk to it, we test what it understood, because it's good to chat, but many times the visual helps us to understand. We see colors, we understand. It's not that I'm only going to use chat. So you'll hear more about this. What Fede showed us is a very good example. It shows that there are some transition pathways, things we can start doing today in K2B, which has the capacity for navigation, intent-based navigation. And tomorrow they may be integrated with other types of things that will allow us to understand and experiment. This is safe experimenting. It's not the kind of experimenting that may be problematic. Let me invite now Julio Marote. He is CEO for the power energy utility here in Uruguay, and he will tell us what this public utility is doing with artificial intelligence. Thank you. Thank you for your invitation. I will very briefly tell you what the energy utility, a state-owned enterprise, is doing. We provide electrical services to the population throughout the country. We are a complete cycle enterprise. We generate, distribute, and sell electrical energy. We like to share figures. 99.9% of the population enjoys electricity in the country, which there are probably 1,500 people without energy. Over 1,600,000 customers, and most of them have intelligent meters, electricity meters. So one of the challenges that we have at UTE, that's our name, is to be closer to people, to clients. And AI covers a very important factor in achieving this proximity to the people who are our clients. So we defined 3 large projects. The first one, it was machine learning, and we had to learn from consumption how energy was used in households. We identified what percentage went to heating the house, to air conditioning, and then we started understanding how people use energy. We also learned about how to develop the creation of more kilowatts to serve them. About 3-4 months ago, with the ChatGPT and generative AI, why not start doing this type of project? So we launched a second project, which was an assistant for those who are interested to have electric cars. We started receiving questions: how do I buy them? How do I invoice them? How do I pay for them? So with that model, we are working well today. And we are training as well. We are learning how to arrange payments. We are training the model. And the third project is an internal assistant, so that our sales agents have more information and be more accurate. In that business part, we have hundreds of documents, a very large number of documents, with procedures, with fees, with special features. And in this way, the business assistant that deals with customers in different channels will have more accurate information and will provide more intelligent advice to our customers. These are the 3 challenges we have today. Maybe there is a 4th challenge, a very important one. Is there a 4th challenge? Yes, I think so. That's people, the way people do things. And this will change, and we need to adapt. The 4th point, and we need to change the way we do things, the way we think about things. And we have to work on that culture issue. That's all I have to share for the time being. So thank you. Thank you for being with us. Really, state utilities, the government itself is going to be working to organize a super app for Uruguayan citizens. So there's a lot of innovation in the state-run companies. And to close this round of guests, I want to invite someone I met during these last 2 years, working for Globant, and that's Sebastián Arriada, CIO at Globant. Welcome. Tell us about Globant. Thank you, Seba. Lots of people here. That's very nice. But they're not looking at you, so just relax. Don't worry. I know people are joining us from many different parts of the world. And you said, we met in the last 1.5 to 2 years. We met in Argentina. In 1 or 2 weeks, everything was ready. I remember what we talked about. We talked about super apps, mini apps. But I remember something I didn't mention at the time, I will tell you now. I was shocked by your capacity to provide solutions. You are amazing. So thank you for that conversation. Well, it's my team, really. It's my team supporting me. Well, in my role as CIO, my objective is to be the technological engine to push the growth of my company. I have a pillar which is called Unified Globant Experience, which means to provide the same type of experience to the 29,000 Globers around the world. And we do this through different tools that seek to simplify their daily activities, to strengthen their capacities, and also to protect the information of the company, and that's key to us. In this context, we've been working on 2 initiatives that are developed jointly. One of them has to do with the mobile applications that we have within our companies. How many mobile applications we have? Do all our employees know how to use them? So we started talking about super apps, mini apps, the environment that allows us to create. So we chose one, the Start Me Up, the one that we use most in Globant, and turn it into a super app. And we rewrote the other applications so that they could be launched in the environment and simplify the access instead of installing different applications. We have a mobile world, and I can move around with experience. The second initiative has to do with the generative AI models. Nicolás showed a chart with a boom of the number of models. And, you know, there are many Globers trying to use. You don't have that much people in Globant. Let them experience, experiment. But it's for the 29,000, if they all try it at the same time, what a problem. Well, Martín said, we are a very nerd company, so it's not just 29,000 Globers around the world. They are very anxious. They are very eager to test. I can imagine when ChatGPT was launched, I can imagine your mailbox, yes, on that very same day, and I'm part of different groups. So in this sense, what we created is a web platform called Globant Chat, which allows to combine external engines, that internal assistance, and above all, we protect shared information. One of the risks is the information we are giving to these models, so how do we control it? I'm not going to spoil how we solve all that, but I will tell you one thing. I will talk about the benefit it provides us with. And the main benefit is scalability, to be able to respond at all times, because we have lots of requests. And so it's always a benefit. Well, don't spoil it. Martín did it, so we'll start quarreling. But yes, over these years, we had our hard times, we had our difficulties, we had to work hard. Did it take a week or more? A little bit more. But what is important is that we were able to attain the solutions as expected, meeting the non-functional requirements of the company. That is availability, security. Sometimes we leave them behind, but in this case, we covered all the aspects. Gastón, I want to thank you, and I want to thank the GeneXus team for your support, for the work we did together. This afternoon at 4, I will tell you about more technical details and the process that we completed in the 2 initiatives, so please come and join us. Thank you again. Many people ask me, do we get on well with Globant? What do you think? We're doing well, right? What do you think? We're doing some things together. Well, thank you. Thank you, Seba. I'll be around if you have any questions.
Realmente.
After so many flowers received in this way by Sebas, I would like to thank him, because what we are truly doing for our products, one of the things that we discovered when we started with Globant is not just the same when you say, well, I've got the product and that's it. And Globant with its size and the difficulties that we have to overcome, the product can only be better. And the product we're going to be presenting is going to be much better now, having done it in Globant and having them tested it, than if we had done it on our own. So I think that we are much stronger and to know many more things. So let me ask Nicolás back. Thank you, and we'll keep in touch. Thank you. Thank you, friends. To conclude, I'd like to go back to my initial question, what's next? I want to answer it loud and clear. This is what we want to do as from now. And what I have to do is to present the products that have been spoiled the most. This is a revolution of how and what. What are we going to do first in how? We are announcing GeneXus Next Edition. This is an edition that all the community will be able to use, and as we said with Martín at the beginning, is to lift all barriers to get to infinite and beyond. Particularly, we are looking for lifting the barrier of language. The next programming language, English, French, Chinese, Japanese, everything will be based on AI. The second barrier we want to lift is accidental complexity, that is no installation or an easy installation. And so the IDE, the multi-platform plugin platform that Gastón announced, everyone will be able to use it. And lastly, the last barrier has to do with the scope. We want any user in the world to be able to download and start using the GeneXus Next Edition without having to pay anything. We are announcing then the freemium version based on subscriptions. And this is the first product that we are looking for and that we are announcing. And that's an answer that Gabriel Medina asked me 6 months ago, and I couldn't answer, and I said I'm going to answer it at some point in time. So thank you all. And lastly, this is what we're doing with the how. Let me tell you what we're doing with the what, but you can very well imagine it. It's called GeneXus Enterprise AI. We are very worried about the future proof under how. With GeneXus Enterprise Edition, we are worried about the present proof. This is ready. You can use it so that you can make AI application basics such as the ones that we've shown you, or any application GeneXus style, keeping independence without having to know in depth what AI is, and that you can use it as quickly as possible with the largest number of users possible. We are super enthusiastic. This is a revolution. Welcome to it. Thank you.